Good morning, America, and welcome to Somerset News Channel. I'd like to wish you a happy Independence Day. It's July the 4th. And I've been looking a little bit of history. And you guys were right to get rid of us. We treated you so bad, it is unbelievable. I'm British. You know, red, white and blue, British Bulldog and all the rest of it. But I'm ashamed of what my country did to the colonies. You know, it wasn't just the Boston Tea Party and the taxing of tea that caused the revolution. There was a lot of taxes put on the colonies before 1700. They're called the Townshend Acts. And there's a whole list of them. Between 1760 and 1770, I think we almost taxed everything you gave us. Cotton, sugar, there was a molasses tax, then there was a sugar tax in 1763. You know, how could you guys trade and make money if we were taxing you on top? And then it was coming here, and the poor guy on the street was having to pay more money for the goods because our government taxed it. No wonder why it caused a recession in this country. Now, there's two things you've got to look at. It all isn't King George III, which is what we're led to believe in our school. Oh, King George did this and King George... King George had no power. 1688, we had the Glorious Revolution in Britain, or in England anyway, when William of Orange and his wife Mary was the true succession of the crown, was Queen Mary. But it was jointly given to her and Prince William of Orange. They came to Brixham in Devon, went to Exeter, and then went up what is now the 303 road, which goes through the south of England all the way to London. By the time he got to London, there was the King's troops waiting to intercept him, but they didn't. They stood back. So by the time they got to London, there was no one to defend it. James II, the evil Catholic king, disappeared and went up to Scotland. That gave us the Glorious Revolution, and not a shot was fired. That meant we could restructure our government. It took away the power of the Crown. The Crown had no power at all then, and we got the Bill of Rights. Read the British Bill of Rights. It's the forerunner of your Bill of Rights in the United States. We took the power from the Crown and gave it to Parliament. We gave free speech of debate in Parliament. We also gave the right for people to be armed, because the Catholic Parliament and King before had taken all the arms off the Protestants. So we were then allowed to have arms for our defence, which is the same as your Bill of Rights. The right to bear arms. We've got that right as well, but it's been taken off of us over the years under Acts, but that's another story. It gave us the right of fair trial. Grants and promises of fines before conviction are illegal and void. It's in the Bill of Rights. One thing that led on after the Bill of Rights was Blackstone's. Blackstone's commentaries on English law, which you Americans use to a great extent. You keep quoting Blackstone's. as common law. Now, there was a guy in the 1700s, leading up to the American Civil War, called William Murray, who I think you've got to look at what he was up to. He was a Jacobite. He was editing the reprints of Blackstone's law. Exactly how he edited them, we're still working on that one. And we're looking at the first editions and the third and fourth editions at the moment to see how they've changed. And if they've really made a big difference. But he did edit Blackstone's. So he was trying to change common law and the way that we perceive common law. 18th, you had Townshend, who put all the acts through to take tax off the Americans. Now, George II died in 1760. George III took over in 1760 and was king until 1820. His wife was Charlotte. Charlotte was a coloured girl. She may have been a half-caste, as you would call it. She had darker skin. The portraits at the time were done, and they predicted her as white. They were against slavery. Britain didn't abolish slavery till 1833. But could the American Civil War of Independence have something to do with them wanting to abolish slavery? I ponder on this one. I think it's something that's in the background and something that needs to be looked at. The Townshend Act. You had an act to restrain New York. You have a Revenue Tax Act in 1767 this is. You had a Commissioner of Customs Act in 1776. You had a Vice Admiralty Court Act. And back in 1765, you had a Quartering Act put on you. We would charge the Americans tax for having British troops on your soil. No wonder why you were upset. No wonder why you were screaming and shouting. Then there was the American Colonies Act of 1766. That repealed the Stamp Duty Act. Now, you didn't like the Stamp Duty Act. It only lasted a year, so we repealed it. And we also changed the Sugar Tax, the Sugar Act, I should say. Now, the Sugar Act came after the Molasses Act, where we were taxing sugar coming from America to us. How you lot ever made any money, God only knows. Then in 1773, we put a tea tax on. Well, that was the start of the end, wasn't it? You then had the Boston Tea Party, where a gang of blokes dressed up as Indians and threw the tea in the river, which started the whole civil independence war off. I don't blame you, America. We treated you like shit. We deserve to be kicked out. But we are still your friends. The English people are still your friends. And I hope you're our friends as well. I know where Lyme is, but don't worry about that. You know, our ancestors all came over. I'm from Somerset. And one of the religions in the little chapels around here was Plymouth Brethren. And the Plymouth Brethren was a Protestant Reformed Church. They couldn't practice under, I talked about James II, the Catholic. He didn't want them to practice and be Protestant. They might have been fundamental Protestants, but a lot of those went to Bristol, got onto boats and came over to the New World on boats like the Matthew. They were some of your founding fathers that came over on the Matthew, on the other ships that came over at the time. We have a lot in common. Our great ancestors are the same people. The same thing that happened to you before 1776, before you declared independence, is happening to you now. But it's by your own side. They call it the deep state. You've only got to look at the Carter Page testimony at the Senate, and it's all laid out for you what was going on. But the mad thing is, your Parliament got our Secret Service to bug you. There's a letter which asks GCHQ, which is our spy network, if they can continue bugging you. It's unbelievable what your deep state government was up to. And it's the government, it was the FBI, the CIA. And I think there's enough people talking about this in the States on YouTube and social media sites that you know more about it than I do. But it's the same shenanigans again. It's deep state stuff, controlling the people and taxing them and doing it for their own ends. It's the same before the independence. Our Parliament was taxing you so British industry could make money, but it didn't. Because as soon as they started taxing cotton and tea and tobacco and molasses, then it made the prices in this country higher, which created depression. Anyway, America, happy Independence Day. I've done 2 trips to the States, and it's a brilliant place. It's big, it's massive, and so you've got some of the nicest people I have ever met in my life over there. I'd like to call out Jeff Jolly, who runs a rifle range down in Arizona. He looked after me ever so well. And I'd also like to thank Montana Long Guns up in Montana. They looked after me on my second trip. Absolutely brilliant people. Anyway, Ian, happy Independence Day, America. And you did the right thing getting rid of us. And the shenanigans they've been up to, trying to get rid of Trump, is unbelievable.